Johnny. Nice to talk to you. I don't know if we're live. Can you guys confirm, whoever's watching, if you guys are watching right now, can you confirm if you guys can hear us? Just want to make sure that we're good to go. Well, Johnny, thanks for coming in, and of course,
Thanks for having me.
This will be available for replay. Let me put on my headphones so that you don't bleed. But let us get started by tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, and why did you start making your own dumbphone?
I am Johnny. I have been programming for a long time. I've always wanted to make my own phone. And recently I've gotten fed up with Android. I've never liked iOS, and I just decided that now would be a good time.
All right. And okay, so that people can get a little bit more of a feedback. So explain to us, what are the features that you are looking for? There's a lot of dumb phones around. There's a lot of things in the market right now. You have the light phone. You have a couple of other things when it comes to minimalist devices. But what is something that you're looking for?
I want to have the same basic feature set as all of the punked phones. What really sets mine apart is I want it to cost under $100.
Oh, wow. Okay. So $100 or less, hopefully.
Yeah, the target is about $75.
$75. Oh, wow. So that's amazing. Yeah, a lot of the dumb phones right now have, they're in the expensive category, 200 or plus. They're especially niche devices. So tell me a little bit more about how you plan to do that. What's your, kind of idea behind it? How are you, subsidizing all of this? What's the project looking like?
It runs fairly basic hardware. The CPU only runs at a few megahertz, but that's all you need for a dumb phone. Modern dumb phones are expensive for two reasons. One, they are really niche devices. And two, a lot of the ones now run Android. I know the light phone and the punked both run full versions of Android, which you really don't need.
And so you're saying that you're trying to create an OS from scratch so that you don't need the full Android compatibility and all of the different components necessary for that. Okay. And so where are you in the development as of right now? So you say that you want to include a couple of features like calling, texting, right? Those are the mains. But besides that, what else are you planning to include in order to keep it, accessible and also price conscious?
I'm going to have basic features like calling, texting, a notes app, calendar, and a calculator. That's going to be about it for my first phone. I do want to improve it later down the line after it's been released.
Okay.
Whether that be with new hardware revisions or new software updates.
Okay. And you have spoken about you want to make this phone affordable, right? So about $75. The question, that I may have is when it comes to all this is what are you thinking in terms of compatibility with since you're making both the hardware and the software, are you making this available to others as well?
Yes, both the hardware and the software are fully open source. You can build your own phone just with the list of parts and the software. I'm making it so anyone with basic electrical engineering and programming knowledge can figure out how the phone works by looking at the code.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I'm personally not an engineer or things of that nature, but you're hoping that people that have maybe the funds or they want to tinker around, maybe program kind of like their own or your OS into their devices, that's also possible, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The operating system is actually coming with drivers for a lot of what I've seen in DIY dumb phones, so it will support Arduino boards and Teensy boards and fairly common cellular modules for those.
Okay. So it's going to be hackable. In other words, you're trying to make something for the community and essentially trying to make sure that most people have access to it.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. So tell me a little bit more about your journey on the smartphone world. Like, what have you used? Why is it not working for you? And where are you hoping that this operating system that you're building from scratch takes you?
I have tried BlackBerry, iOS, and Android. The BlackBerry felt like it was trying to be a smartphone, but failing to be a smartphone. I haven't tried the new ones, but those just run Android. I don't like how locked down iOS is. I can understand it with BlackBerry because security is their whole thing, but iOS really feels like there's no freedom with it.
Mm-hmm.
And Android is starting to move there too. Not necessarily the operating system, but hardware vendors are starting to lock out the devices. I personally have a Galaxy S8, and I can't install my own custom firmware on it. That shouldn't be a thing.
Right. I remember in the early days of Android where it was open. You could pretty much root any phone. You have access to a lot of people, and you have access to a lot of things. So it was just interesting to see how they are limiting more and more the access to the bootloaders, and for people that want to tinker a little bit more. And of course, it's definitely more difficult nowadays than before. So what's the progress? What are you looking for? How are you moving forward? Are you on like version 1.0 right now? Tell us what works, what doesn't, and where are you hoping to take it?
Right now, it is very early in development. I have a basic hardware prototype. It doesn't have everything yet. And I have a basic prototype of the operating system. I'm going to be releasing the first alpha version later this month.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when, but it will be sometime in December.
And are you hoping to release that on GitHub or?
Yes.
Okay, so GitHub will be the place for people to get updates. Have you decided on a name? I know that you posted on the Reddit community maybe a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago, about a name. Have you decided on that?
I don't know what I'm going to call the hardware, but the software is called Arctic OS.
Arctic OS. Okay, that's awesome. That's good to hear. We have a question from the audience from Jimmy Soul. He says, will this project support 4G networks? I hear that 2G and 3G is going to be phased out in favor of VoLTE. Will this phone be future-proof in this way?
I definitely do want to have 4G support. The hardware isn't finalized yet, but that is something I'd like to have, or at least have the option to upgrade to 4G if needed.
Right. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure, I don't know about Canada, but here in the US, the 3G, like the carriers are shutting down 3G in this next 2021. So an upgrade to it will be great. Are you trying to make the components easily sourceable so people can get them easily?
Yes, I'm going to be selling all of the components, and the phone is going to have a very modular design, so you can easily fix it if it breaks or upgrade it if you want to.
Wow, you're pretty much going in a different direction than a lot of the manufacturers are going into. It's kind of like what's the project from Europe? They have Android. It's Fairphone, the Fairphone OS and things like that. I think that's pretty much essentially what you're aiming at, but with the dumb phones, with feature phones. Have you decided like on a design? I don't know if you have any samples or anything that you can showcase into it, or is it just boards and main components at the moment?
Right now, it's just boards. I'm thinking that the design will look similar to the Mudita Pure, except the keypad, instead of a directional pad, I'd like to have just end call, OK, and start call, and those are going to be used for navigation.
Okay.
I'm not sure yet. I want to try it out with the operating system, see if it feels decent for navigation. If it doesn't, I'll switch to something else.
Right. So you said that your background is in computing and software developing, things of that nature. Are you thinking, or how are you kind of going about the OS? Is it going to be based on an open source project already, or is this like from scratch?
It's being done completely from scratch. I'm trying to build it as easy to understand as possible so anybody can put it into anything. Okay. I want it to take a weekend to port it to a new phone project.
Okay. And how long has it taken you to get to this point? I mean, a lot of people don't get to see the background, but how long has it been since you started doing this?
It's been about a month, and right now I have the operating system can boot. It can make phone calls and send SMS. I'm just waiting for a screen to arrive so I can start making the user interface, and then I will be releasing the first alpha version. Okay.
So it's very early in the development, but you have a decent amount of progress if you can make phone calls and texts. I mean, I assume it wouldn't, take forever to do that. But I mean, if you're a one person band, right? Like, you're writing the hardware and the software at the same time. So
yeah.
What is it that you're hoping to accomplish from the community? So as more people come into the project, what are you hoping that the community is able to code into the device?
For this first version, I'm mainly looking for just general quality of life improvements. But moving forward, I plan to create a second phone that is more of a transition phone between smartphone and dumb phone, so you don't have to have separate devices for GPS and music and things like that. And I'm definitely going to need help building that.
Okay. So right now you're saying that this phone that you're trying to release, hopefully in 2021, right? Like that's the hope.
Yes.
It's going to be just bare bones, like calls, texts, notes, calculator, things that can be done very easily. But the OS, you're hoping to develop it into other devices and eventually into something that is more of a transition device, as you call it.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. That's actually good to know. That's actually good to hear. Tell me, just share with me, what's the cost? What's costing you to do all of this? Just for, what are you expecting to do in the next couple of months, or et cetera?
In terms of cost, it's not super expensive to make it. My main cost is that if I mess up with prototyping and I'm fairly late into it, like I've already ordered boards, then I have to order new ones and new parts to put on those boards. And so that's my main cost, is just prototyping. Once it's done, the phones are going to be built to order, so it shouldn't be too expensive to manufacture. I plan to 3D print all the cases for them, things like that.
Okay. Wow. That's good how technology can help in different areas, and you're trying to make sure that the cost, stays low, but you're still able to turn a profit. Let's say that someone's listening to this and it's like, okay, I'm interested. I would like to get a phone that has basic things and it's open source and, things of that nature. How do they find you? How do they, say like, hey, I want to pitch in, or I want to support, or whenever the OS comes, I'd like to check it out, maybe have an early version or something like that?
When the alpha version releases in the GitHub repository and the website for it, there will be donate links. So you can donate to the development of the operating system, and in turn, that fuels the development of the phone.
Okay. So you'll have some donation tabs in the GitHub whenever it's published. And for those of that just came, tell me again, when is it that you're planning to release it? Is it later this month, in the middle of the month, a week from now? What is it looking like?
I don't know exactly. It's probably going to be released about a week after I get the final parts I need for the prototype in. Shipping was very vague on that. I hope to release it mid-December, though.
Okay, mid-December. That's awesome. I mean, yeah, probably you're getting the parts, from different parts of the world, and you're trying to, especially with the pandemic right now, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things delayed. Well, if there's any other questions from the audience, please, guys, just comment in there. Thanks, Johnny, for the time so far. Anything that you'd like to say, or things that you'd like to kind of talk about when it comes to the project that you're doing, or encouragement for other people that may want to, check something like this out. Arctic OS, right? Like Arctic OS?
Arctic.
Okay. Don't feel pressured if there is nothing that you have to say, That's okay.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything else that I'd like to say.
That's fine. Well, I'm excited to see the development. I think more competition allows, for better choices, especially in the dumbphone area and the arena. There's a lot of competitors right now, but I think you entering as a, kind of like small, built to order, that's something that you don't see it quite often, especially nowadays. So I'm kind of excited to see what you have planned and what you're actually trying to accomplish. So props to you. I wouldn't be able to code myself, even the phone and the SMS things. What are you testing on right now, if you don't mind me asking? Since you don't have all the components for the hardware, are you just like testing online, or what is it?
I have a couple different microcontrollers that I'm testing it on. I have an Arduino and a Teensy board. And those are two of the boards that I see a lot in DIY smartphones, or not smartphones, sorry, dumb phones. So used to saying smartphone. Yeah, those are two of the components I see used a lot. And so I'm going to be supporting them in the final version. So it makes sense to test on those.
When you say that this DIY feature phones, which ones are you talking about? I have only seen one from the UK, I believe, but I don't know if there. It looks like a Game Boy or something like that. But what is it? What are those devices that you're referring to?
Before I started working on this, there was a long while where I would look at other people's projects, usually on Hackaday. That seems to be where a lot of people post their DIY projects. And so I've seen a lot of like Arduino phones. And I thought to myself, I could build that and I could make it better.
Okay, that's good.
So that's what I'm doing.
That's awesome. That's good. We have a question from Joshua Garrett. He says, how easy is it to build your own prototype just for personal use?
It really depends on what you're looking for. If you just want like an Arduino to sit on your desk and that's a cool thing that you can use as like a home phone or something, it takes very little effort. You just plug everything together. If you're looking to build something actually portable that you can use as a cell phone, it's a little bit harder. You need some knowledge of soldering. But it really shouldn't be too difficult. Like I said, everything's getting published. You can order the boards yourself for like $10.
Oh wow, $10 for the board.
$10 for just the bare PCB. All the components are a little bit extra. The most expensive component on the board is $25.
Okay. And are you hoping to only build a um like how are you planning to build that, in the sense, like, are you hoping to sell kits for people to assemble them themselves, maybe at a cheaper price, or would it be only assembled by you? And if you want to do it yourself, you can just buy the components yourself.
I'd like to sell kits. I'm not sure. I'd have to see what people's interest on that is. I might sell like pre-assembled boards, so you don't need to know how to solder everything.
Mm.
But I think most of it will be pre-assembled phones.
Okay. So that's good to know. John Goodwin says, to the point, to the previous question, how difficult would it be to program something like KaiOS into it?
The phone I'm making right now probably won't be able to support KaiOS.
Okay.
The processor is relatively slow. I don't know what KaiOS has for minimum requirements, but it's probably not matched by my phone. It's meant to be just enough for a dumb phone.
So just basic components, like something like what's it called? The command system, like in Windows, like, something like bare bones, like what was it called? Those, right? I think I'm
Yeah.
getting it right. Okay, so something like that. It's just gonna be like line by line, have like very little UI. Is that what you're hoping to get accomplished?
No, I'm hoping to have a minimalist looking user interface with it as well. Like, it looks like an existing minimalist phone.
Mm.
But the hardware behind it is just enough to run that.
Okay. So hardware, keep it on the low side so you don't have to spend a lot of money to run Android. Like you said, a couple of the minimalist phones that are running Android. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's good to hear, man. That's good to hear. I really appreciate you sharing with us and getting, kind of like the early beginnings of Arctic OS. And whenever you're done with the project, please let me know. I'll be buying one so I can review it and give you right there the kind of like see what it looks like, see how it is. John Goodwin has another question. Are you trying to make this a T9 or QWERTY keyboard?
It will be T9. I do want, like I said, I do want to make a second sort of transition phone, and that one will have QWERTY.
Okay. So the transition phone may be more of like a BlackBerry, but the first one, you're just trying to keep it as basic as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds
But
good.
think one of the early Nokias, but with a nice looking interface.
Okay. That's good. Do you have any other things? I know we had limited time, and there's some people just jumping in. For you guys who are just jumping in, we're talking about Arctic OS. This is Johnny Stene. He's the developer for software and hardware. So he's pretty much making his own phone from scratch. And there's a couple things that you can go back and forth here in this video to kind of get the early look. Do you think we can have you back maybe in a couple of weeks so you can show us the progress and see where you are in the development?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that sometime early 2021, I will have the first beta version ready for general use. And around that time, I might start making development units. Like, they just sit on your desk, but they run the final hardware. And I'll sell those to people looking to develop on the OS to make it better for the final release.
Okay. Cool. I think that's awesome to hear. And I think, of course, this takes a lot of time and a lot of things. And I think we appreciate what you're doing, because it's something you're trying to get into the affordable arena, but actually do it very well. And I think you're confident that you can do that, which is very good in my opinion.
Yeah, one thing I really want to do is I want this phone to put pressure on the other minimalist phone makers to start making things that don't cost $300 to $400, because you shouldn't have to pay more money for less features.
That's fair. That's fair. Of course, the ergonomics and everything that they make, they can make some of that trade-off in there in the development that it takes. But you're making a very good point, and this is why we have competition, right? Competition
Yeah.
allows us to put that pressure and do all of that. So that's actually a good thing that you're putting that pressure and competition. And I mean, if you make something that people like it and people love it, then they're going to be going to you for $75 instead of, going for a light phone or a punk phone, which costs a little bit more than that. Actually, this is a review coming up in the channel in a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks from now. This is a it's decent company, and essentially it runs like a customized version of Android, but it's like $60. And I found it to be a good solution for those who need calls, text, and WhatsApp. So this runs WhatsApp. And of course, you're trying to go even more minimal, but I like the idea that you're trying to go for a specific kind of like market, the budget market, and you're trying to do it well, because I'm pretty sure that even this one, as I've been testing, I'm on the early testing phase for this phone, it lags a little and stuff like that. One question actually I didn't ask you, will it have a camera? There's a lot of people that want to have a camera on their device, but what do you think about that? Would that be for the transition device, or would that be for this one right now?
That would be a little bit more towards the transition device. This one, it's just built to be a phone.
Okay.
That's it.
Right.
It's made for the person who already has everything else that they need. They have a dedicated GPS, they have an iPod, and they have like a digital camera.
Okay.
And they want a phone, and they don't want something from like the early 2000s. That's who I'm targeting. Someone who wants a modern phone.
Modern feature phone. Right. Modern feature phone. Okay. That's good to know. That's good. That's your target audience. Last, maybe if there's no more questions, I'd like to ask, what is your goal? Like, in the next year or two, do you plan to release everything and hopefully get a team to work together? Or is this more like, I just enjoy doing this and hopefully I can get a side hustle out of it?
I think going forward, I would like to have a big team full of people working on it. But for now, just in the early days of the project, it is just nice to have, just to do it by myself. When I'm developing the second phone, I will certainly want a team. I almost certainly can't do that all by myself.
That's for sure. That's for sure. All right, Johnny, thanks a lot for your time. I know we only have half an hour to ask a couple questions here and there, but we'll have you back with an update once you have a working unit so that we can showcase it to all the people here. And of course, if we can have a couple of extra things from you, and whenever you have a release date, let me know so that I can put it on Reddit, put it on the Discord, put it on different things so that people can check it out. We have one more question from Joshua. Is there an affordable way of getting into satellites instead of the network towers?
I haven't actually looked into that. I might have to look at that a bit later. That would be another one of those cool things to have as an upgrade you can buy for the phone. Okay,
cool. And again, you're trying to make it as open as possible so that people can do as much as they want and they can check, get the most out, the most they can, right? Like, open source, that's what it means. And, the community really backs you up in there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Johnny, thanks a lot for your time. Again, we only have half an hour, guys. But if you have any extra questions for Johnny, make sure to type them here. I'll pass it along to them. Johnny, if people want to ask you extra questions, how can they find you? How can they interact with you? If they're interested in maybe pitching in the early development and saying like, "Hey, dude, I really like what you're doing. Have $10 here. Have a coffee on me, so you can keep working on this." How can they find you?
I will put my Twitter and my email in the chat here.
Sounds good.
That's really the only ways that I can really talk to people at the moment. I do hope to make a Discord server for the project soon. But that's more in terms of after the first alpha version's released.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. And that's about 2 weeks. You said mid-December. Hopefully that's the target date, right?
That's what I'm hoping.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that's great to hear, Johnny. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming in and telling us a little bit more about the early days of Arctic OS. By the way, really cool name. I really like it. It sounds really nice. And if you need any extra things, and we'll have you back whenever you're up, you have progress on the project, and we can show a prototype so that people can get a little bit more excited into this new space and into this new phone. So,
yeah.
Awesome. All right. See you guys. And I'll be dropping a video hopefully soon. I have a couple things coming up next, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right.